out, and I came over to your house and we're talking about near-death experience and how we could talk about that. And it was normal for us trying to explain that. And then it was yoga, this yoga that saved your life, right? And then we'll probably stop there, and I'll say, when we come back, we got some funny stories for you. And our third section is always funny story time. And so, start, finish, or you just got one, you can do one, and then I'll just. So people that are talking about breaking the rules use their fingers to speak to each other. And that's what gangs do to communicate from point A to point B. The last part would be how successful. It's almost like this has been in the Bible for 2,000 years. And people feel like it's a new thing. That is unbelievable, isn't it? That things that are happening in your life today all of this story are in here from 2,000 years ago. All right. That's very weird. Go ahead and set your
Go ahead and say hi to the audience. Hi to the audience.
Welcome back.
Do we sing it?
All right. Welcome back to the Warriors Way. We're always ready to sing, bud.
That's right. Doing podcasts for Jesus.
Podcasting for Jesus. He's my favorite. Hey, man. So we just got back. So you were doing yoga, and then COVID happened. And you said you had been fighting with pneumonia there for like a month, right?
Yeah, actually, it was kind of funny. I had taken a couple trips, and one of them was in late January, and I was down in Florida where my parents go, but we had a meeting down there too, and they said, my mom's like, "Man, you're not looking good." And I was doing yoga, but my lungs had gotten so strong, even just after a month, that I was like, I'll push through. I'll muscle through. That's what
being a guy, right?
Oh, yeah, being a guy, yeah.
Get
Absolutely,
her done.
yeah. Put it, tis nearly a flesh wound. It's like, and
hold my arm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Put it in the cooler. We'll put it on the back later. It's like, yeah. So it's, I got pneumonia sometime. I went on spring break in the end of March, early April, and they think I had pneumonia then. Yeah. And that was, I was snorkeling in the Keys and doing everything, doing yoga every day.
Like a manly man.
Just I'd done 115 days in a row of yoga. And so, but my daughter got COVID like April, maybe like 20th, 18th, something like that. She came home with COVID. So we had to quarantine. My wife's a teacher. Yeah. And I own a home care business, so we don't want to get the seniors sick. Yeah, and clearly. So my staff had already kicked me out because I wasn't sounding good. Yeah. And that's when I had the pneumonia. And then,
so like, when did you go to the hospital?
April 25th of last year.
So it was like 5 days before, once your daughter come home with COVID.
Yeah. Okay. And because I was feeling fine. Yeah. But it was one of those things where, you got a choice between are you a dad or are you scared of a virus? Right. And so it's like your 9-year-old's laying there crying with 103 fever. You're not going to be like all gowned up and walking in there and scaring her to death. You're going to give her a hug. Yeah. And so I got COVID, And
so you get COVID, then you have to go to the hospital.
I go to the hospital on April 25th. And then my wife came on April 26th. Okay. And was admitted to the hospital. Okay. And then, everything at the hospital happened in hindsight. Yeah. So like it all happened, but then we didn't realize the impact of it for like 2 weeks later.
So you're in the hospital and like basically all hell broke loose. Like you couldn't get breath.
Yeah. So I was in the hospital and like on my third day, I didn't know how bad I was. No one told me. I remember sitting on the side of the bed, just like hallucinating, just like really sick. And apparently I was at 100% oxygen and 100% flow rate. Yeah. And I was, every time I would cough or move, I dropped to like 50% blood oxygen.
Yeah. So when you told me this, you were like, there was at a point they just knew you were going to die and there was nothing they could do, right?
Yeah. That was that day. It was like my third day there. The respiratory therapist, she came in, and she would do everything she could. And she took this. I found this out 5 days before I got out. Yeah. So it's kind of, again, hindsight. Yeah,
go ahead.
Is she's like, I would go out in the hallway and cry, and we'd pray over you.
Yeah. And so these nurses that are exhausted, they're not just physically exhausted. They're emotionally exhausted because they're vested in you guys, right?
Yeah. They've been through war.
Was this the time when like they would just come in and pray around? You said they would just gather and pray because there's
No,
nothing
just
they
out in the hallway.
Oh, out in the hall.
They didn't tell me because that was the thing is I had no idea I was gonna die.
Yeah.
Like they would bring
it's
my
a weird
wife
spot,
in.
right?
It is a weird spot. 'Cause
Yeah.
They'd bring my wife in. I didn't realize this. My wife, they brought her down in a wheelchair, and that broke protocol because you weren't supposed to take COVID patients between rooms, and so
And
they
we're
brought
real
her
big
down
about
twice.
following the rules,
So-
so.
Oh yeah. No, well, good people will disobey bad rules. So they brought her down to see me a couple times.
Yeah.
Because I didn't realize this. They didn't think I was going to make it.
Wow.
And so, and they were talking about moving us into the same room.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like, no, I don't think we should move it in the same room yet. She actually had more wisdom in that than me because she knows me and I just want to take care of her.
Right.
And so she was like, no, he'll kill himself taking care of me.
Yeah.
In our room. And so, yeah, I mean, the staff there, what God put out, as far as the staff there to help was just an amazing group of people.
And these people, they didn't think you were going to make it. Like everyone else that had been in your position that dropped to that 50% oxygen thing had died, right?
Well, let me tell you what I had. So no, people that had dropped it, only 70% had died. So that's the thing is,
you're setting a new record.
I'm setting a new record. They literally told me no one that had about half of your stuff came out of here outside of a body.
Give me the list. How bad was it?
I had pneumonia, bacterial pneumonia in both of my lungs. I had 75% COVID pneumonia in both of my lungs.
Wow.
And then I got a blood clot in both of my lungs. And then they put me on a BiPAP machine to help me breathe while I was sleeping.
Yeah.
And it collapsed my right lung.
Oh,
So
outstanding.
I got a pneumothorax, which is it's a tear in your lung up high. Thankfully, they didn't have to put the tube in my chest because it was a high one, so it could heal itself. And I pulled the mask off.
Yeah.
And but it also gave me subcutaneous emphysema at the same time because basically the air that went from the hole in my lung pumped air into my skin, and it felt like someone took Jell-O and beanbag chair filling and injected me with it. I said it feels like they took a hose and shoved up my butt and just pumped me through, and it was all right here. So it looked like I had lost like 50 pounds, but it looked like I was the Kool-Aid man.
So
like,
you had pneumonia, COVID
pneumonia,
emphysema,
yep, blood clots, collapsed lung,
like
everything. And they had no ICU beds available and no ventilators.
That's right.
But
you couldn't get, and they didn't want to put you in there because they figured you just weren't going to make it, right?
And so hindsight, that's probably the best thing that happened because I became respiratory therapy's pet project. Because I mean, a little bit of a side story. I golf with a group of guys that we go on a couple golf trips a year.
Yeah.
Well, one of those guys had just died of brain cancer, and he was a nurse at Genesis for 20 years.
Gotcha.
So he was friends with all these people. Well, I was supposed to be on the golf trip while I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
So I had all my golf stuff that I had him bring up because I had coins made for him. I had poker chip ball markers made for him for Scott. And I had them all made up. I had my shirt brought up. Well, I didn't know this, but all the respiratory therapists were his best friends.
Oh, wow.
And so they would walk by my room and they'd pray over my room. They were always checking on me. And other nurses, he worked in the, I think the cath lab, and he was and so they loved him. So they were making sure they checked on me because of that relationship. And it was, I mean, definitely ordained by
so
God,
you're going
sure.
in there. There's no chance you're living. Somehow, by the grace of God, you made it through that. There's no answer to that. It just happened.
Just happened.
Right?
Just my sheer determination. But the funny, I mean, there's a great, and I mean, by the grace of God, but just sheer, like, not giving up. You know,
so like you and I were talking about this, and when you're going, the images and stuff you see, being in my car accident, when you're dying, it's actually kind of peaceful, but it's terrifying because it's like the stuff you see and the, like.
Well, that's what the Psalms 23 and Psalms 91. It's absolutely there's a valley of shadow of death, and
but there's difference between knowing it and then living it.
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And so when you're
having
doing
the visual,
dude, it's terrifying, right?
Having the
Because
visual.
you can see. I don't know how to explain this to people. It's like a tunnel, and then there's all this black stuff around you, and you can see the things moving, but you know you're okay, but it's terrifying, and then you don't know how to get out. You just kind of go like move forward, it's like, Yea, though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I'll fear no evil, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not going to fear that thing's coming after me. And it's just a strange spot. And like for me, that's where my wife was like, you need to get tattoos to explain it. Because I was like, babe, I don't know how to explain this to people. It was too weird. And it was her idea. And so that's what my whole sleeve is about, how God got me through like that really funky, like impossible time. And I remember when you and I were talking about it, and your eyes got big, and you were like, wow. You're like, I didn't know that. And we started talking. It was just really free-flowing. And I was like, dude, you need to write all this down. And you're like, I had been. And so, like, trying to get that process down so other people can understand, like, it's mind-blowing. And then when you've gone through a death experience or a near-death experience, trying to explain that to somebody is like trying to talk to them in Greek about something they've never seen, and then hoping that they get it, right?
Absolutely.
And so you're sitting there, and you were in the hospital for how long? How many days?
25 days.
25 days, and then you were home for...
Well,
Like on oxygen, how many days was that? That was months.
4.5, 5 months.
Okay, 4.5, 5 months. So you go into the situation, you almost die a couple times, right? Like,
yeah, and then I almost died at home too.
Right. So I was leading into that. So you made it out.
Yep.
And then you're at home, and then what happened?
Well, so I got home the first day. My wife had done a wonderful job getting a whole bedroom set up for me, just making sure the house just felt like home. And we had this big, welcome home party.
Yeah.
It was really cool. And then so that night I laid down. Well, I laid down. I'm not supposed to lay on my collapsed lung side.
Right.
And I had slept on my left side for 3.5 weeks. Well, I was so comfortable in bed that I just kind of zonked out. And I woke up and I couldn't breathe because all the pneumonia. What people don't know sometimes is pneumonia settles. Gravity affects it. And so that's why when you're having COVID, having chest pains, you should lay prone. And that's what they try to get you to do in the hospital, is lay on your stomach. So it falls to the front of your lung so you can get it out. Right. So it doesn't settle. Well, so I laid on my right lung while I stood up. I got up on the side of the bed, and it was like I was at like 58% oxygen again. And so... And I didn't want to get too much oxygen because I didn't know the right protocols. So this was like 4 or 5 in the morning. My son's sleeping out in the height of bed because he wanted to be close, just in case he's 20. And he wanted to be close. And then my wife is right there, and she's rubbing my back. That's when when you can't breathe, you're having anxiety attacks. It just helps to have someone just touch your back and just kind of calm you down. Well, I'm like, okay, they turned me up to 10 units on my oxygen machine. So that was the most I could get. It was an hour of me fighting, and I still couldn't get my oxygen to stay above 60. Yeah. And then, so I said, medium flow is 15 units of oxygen. So give me another tank and give me a second cannula. And I put that in my mouth. And I said, turn it to 4. Because I thought, well, this is my brain working, is just... Well, 15 is medium flow, so if I'm on 14, then I'm still on low flow. So it's like I'm like, it doesn't matter.
I like how that math
crank
works.
it to 11. And so it's like, so we
maximum speed.
That's right. Yeah, go plaid, please. And so I put it in my mouth and I recovered finally, but it was scary. And my wife wanted to call 911. I said, I'm not going back to the hospital. Right. I do not want to go back there, and then they're going to throw me on a ventilator or something like that. And I had bruises all over my stomach from the blood thinner shots. And, me and the nurses had fun. They drew a smiley face and arms on one of them. And I took a picture of it, and I cut it out with my phone. And we called it Betty. And so we would text it to each other, and just, stupid stuff just to keep me from going crazy. Yeah. So, and I wanted to get through that part. And I know that was hard. And I want to thank you for telling us, because one, as a person that's gone through that, it's nice to be able to talk about it. And it's like, you're not crazy. Like, those things happen. Well, right? I remember you sitting in my living room, like day 1 or 2 when I got out. Yeah. And you were like, and I said about this stuff, and Rod's crying, and you're laughing. Yeah. And you're like, finally, I'm not alone. Yeah. Someone else died. I was like, did it. Yeah. It's like, and because you said, he goes, and of all people, I didn't think it was going to be you. Yeah. And so, and it was just a really cool moment. Because, I remember having that moment when I realized what I had survived in the hospital. I had this beautiful lovely respiratory therapist came in at 2:00 in the morning to change my cannula because I had so much bad bloody noses.
Yeah.
And she said, she comes around the corner of the bed, and at this time I was better. I was kind of in my own private room.
Yeah.
And she comes around the bed. She's like, her eyes were this big, and she goes, "It's you."
Right.
And I'm like, I hope so.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're in a strange man's room at 2 a.m. and this is awkward for all of us.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So on that note, we are going to take a break. If you haven't hit Spiritual Warfare Unit, like, share, and subscribe. And we're going to be right back with some of those funny stories. You guys sit right with us.
Really impressed with the teachings that Isaac has been bringing to us, as this is all based from Proverbs.
I like it because it's simple, and it doesn't matter who you are. It's very easy to understand and apply to your life.
You know, it points out, you know, my bad parts, and, you know, but it's showing me how to do the good parts. And, you know, I'm trying to apply that and, you know, make a better life for myself because I'm tired of where I've been.
It's impacted a lot of the guys as they continue to talk and ask questions after the meetings, as they speak to one another regarding the meeting and the messages and the topics that are being brought up, which are down-to-earth topics of situations and things that we live with on a day-to-day basis.
He takes the Bible and he breaks it down into simple terms and where you can understand. And like I said before, sometimes a lot of churches, even the Salvation Army, sometimes we start using these big words that people don't understand, like even saying someone got saved. Well, what does that mean? What does it mean when you say someone got saved? And it's accepting Jesus into your heart. So it's like words like that we use that people don't understand.
It's just very interesting how he points out, you know, the different things of, you know, the sin part, and then he comes back with the, you know, how to make it better, and he just points it out. It's there. You know, I didn't know all this stuff was in there, but now that he's pointing it out, it's like, wow, you know, I guess if you really dig into the Bible, you find these things.
This is a daily moral standards that we can live by, that the teachings are coming from. And honestly, we can take verse by verse as what he's done, and pretty much he's done the hard work for us and now laying it out so that we have an easier understanding.
There's some people who don't like to be in Bible classes, but this one seems to get their attention.
God kind of opened my eyes to is things that I don't like about other people or things I do wrong myself. Why is it that we lie? What is it that we get out of it? I didn't write the book, but that's just the answer. And you have to ask yourself, if that's the answer, do you struggle with that?
Welcome back to the Warrior's Way, associated with UCAN. I'm here with AJ, and you were telling us a story about a woman coming into your room.
Yeah.
Was a nurse and her eyes got big. What happened then?
So she came around the bed and she was like, "Oh my gosh, it's you!" And then we kind of had this funny little moment, and she said, and I said, "Yeah." She goes, "No, you don't understand. I thought you died." She said,
She thought you were gone.
She said, "I was your respiratory therapist on that third night when we would go out in the hallway and cry and pray for you."
Wow.
And she goes, "And there was no way you were going to make it." And she goes, "You literally had a 0% chance of making it." And she just started crying right then, and then she gave me a big old hug, and then we
Isn't it
sat
great
there.
when you got to console someone else about what you're going through?
Exactly.
It's weird, right?
Yeah, it is.
All right,
and so it was cool.
So I know you got some gems. I know you got some funny stories, so I got to unleash you on a couple of these, buddy.
Okay.
So when you're going through these difficult times, inevitably something funny happens.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it's only funny to you, you know, like the one when I was projectile vomiting on myself. I found that funny at the time. Yeah. And but you got to have some stuff, man. What do you got?
Well, come with everything, like not being able to breathe and everything, comes out of anxiety.
Yeah.
Well, I thought, okay, maybe some THC, maybe some because I take CBD oil to sleep and stuff. It's no big deal. But it was like, oh, maybe some THC will help me calm down, you know, because I was having anxiety. And
that's what it's for. Those people don't seem very high strung.
No, not at all. No, it's like,
very.
Yeah, driving while under the influence of that just doesn't seem like a
Yeah.
problem. You know,
Yeah,
it's
trying to
that-
hit
the Cheech and
25.
Chong. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Trying to hit 25 miles an hour instead of
Absolutely.
saying under 5.
Yeah, yeah.
there with
So he, having some Labrador, but no, I had. So we consulted with some of my friends who work in the medicinal marijuana world.
Absolutely.
And I was like, so I sent my poor 72-year-old father around to buy pot gummies around town, and he's like, I don't even know what I'm asking for, but these were buy two get one free, so we got these ones. And I was like,
I found a deal.
Oh, I found a deal.
That's awesome.
So we were cracking up laughing. I was like, did you get a hat? Because he gets a hat from everywhere he goes. And so he comes back and he hands me one, and I'm thinking, I'm a big guy. I'm gonna take like 2 of these. Well, I didn't.
Two
realize-
gummies.
I did not. I didn't. I stopped.
Oh.
Yeah, I did not. I took a half of one, and that was terrible enough. So, because I was on steroids, so my heart rate was going really high.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
wanted something just to bring me down. Because in the hospital, I took Xanax while I was on steroids. So my heart rate was at like 130.
Yeah.
And I'm on Xanax, so I'm sleepy and like on speed at the same time.
Right.
It was a terrible feeling.
Right.
And so I thought, okay, weed, that'll help me feel better.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, we get them and I'm like, okay, watermelon flavor, whatever, you know? And so we start texting like friends that do this.
Sure, you want to be informed.
Yeah, and I'm like, all right, so what should I take? I'm thinking, pop 2. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Take like a half of one.
Yeah.
And so I took a half of one, and I was like, I don't like this. Now
you're super anxious.
Yeah, now the snozberries taste like snozberries. And, and it's like, I can taste sound, and I'm still high, and I'm super anxious. It was a bad experience.
I can taste sound.
Yeah, it's like,
And you're in the corner just,
oh yeah. So I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna go to sleep. They're like, that's a good idea.
Yeah, right.
So I lay down and I wake up. Well, at this point, little more information. I couldn't always get to the bathroom. So
Yeah,
I
right.
had like urinals and I had all these other things.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't wear underwear when you have all that going
Absolutely.
on. Because it's just more fabric to get in the way. You know?
Oh, no.
And
no.
when I wake up, I'm like, and now this time I'm just the happy high guy. So it was like, I'm looking around, and my shorts had pulled up, and they were like a Speedo, and they were like gym shorts. They were like a Speedo right here, and my shirt had pulled up over my belly.
I
got my belly hanging out
with permagrin.
Oh yeah, and I'm just like, and then our best friend's daughter, who's like 15,
Yeah.
and I've known her since she was like 8.
Yeah.
She comes in, and I'm the straight lace dad.
Yeah,
and
right.
from the robotics team.
Yeah.
And I'm the guy who keeps everybody else kind of chill.
Yeah.
And she's like, and Paige comes in, and I was like, hi, Paige. And I was like, I bet you never seen me like this before. And she's like, no. And so
She needs therapy
she
now.
needs therapy now. Yeah, absolutely. So I text her dad, and I'm like, I think I may have traumatized your daughter. I apologize. After I came down here, I'm
Yeah.
like, I am never doing those again.
Yeah.
Like, it is terrible. And so that's my traumatizing THC gummy story.
I could just picture you, like I said, in your pajama bikini. Like
Oh,
you
yeah.
said, when it gets all hyped
Oh,
up.
yeah.
I was like, please tell me he made it to the bathroom. Like I don't want that story. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man. So yeah, like all my stories that I have to deal with that are funny for me,
Yeah.
I had to deal with doctors.
Yeah.
Right. And so when I was going through my brain injury, yeah, I have to go see all these different neurologists, and they always, I'm sorry, Mr. Wallace, there's nothing you can do. It's too serious. It's too serious. And I didn't want to hear that.
Yeah.
And so my case manager kept sending me to these other ones, and I was going to every hospital you could think of. And so each time you go to the doctors, you have to go in, and they give you the clipboard, right? Name, address, phone number, history of surgeries, which it's like, and it's like, blah, 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 blah. And you got- and for me, I got like 13 of them. So
Yeah.
it's like, this, and then this, and then this, and then this. And your hand's cramping, By
yeah.
the time you give them the back, you're like, hey, I'm Mr. Walsh the Claw.
Yeah.
So you get tired of doing that. And
Yeah.
you find ways, like you said, to entertain yourself.
Absolutely.
And I'm not condoning what I'm about to say. What I'm saying is that I have a brain injury, and it was funny to me. And
Absolutely.
so that's my clerical warning. So anyways, I'm going in there, and I think I was at the U of M. I'm not sure if that's true or not. I know it's at some hospital because I had gone through 111.
Yeah.
So it was somewhere between 1 and 111 in that time frame.
Yeah.
So I go in there, Name, address, phone number, surgeries, history, blah, blah, blah. Blah, 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 blah. Hobbies. Like, ooh, new one. So at the time, I was playing Call of Duty, and any of the guys my age, we all played Call of Duty,
Yeah.
and I was like, I'll put Assassin. So I put Assassin in for my hobby, right? And I was like, whatever, who cares?
Yeah.
So I go and I sit down. There's this younger fellow, right? Brown hair, parted, very straight, slim, tie, very professional, white coat.
Like you.
Tan, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not outgoing at all.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting in there, and he pulls out the paper, and he's, and I, and I see him stop, and I go, And so I'm like, here it comes, And so he says, Mr. Wallace, down at the bottom here under hobbies, it says you're an assassin. Well, I said, yes, that's correct. And he said, you're an assassin. And I said, that's correct. And he said, you kill people. And I said, doctor, if you have to continually repeat yourself, this is going to be an extremely long doctor's appointment. And I just want to get through this. And so he gets this perturbed look on his face, and he's like going to let it go. And then he like half turns. And he comes back. He's like, you really kill people. And at this point, I'm like, I got one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'm being very calm, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like top 5 in the world in Call of Duty, on hardcore team deathmatch. I was pretty good, And he goes, you really kill people. And I was like, well, yeah. That's what assassin means last time I checked. So can we just continue on with this? So now his face starts to turn red, right? And he's a little guy.
Yeah.
And he takes a couple of steps over his desk, and then he comes back, and he says, you're really an assassin. And I was just like, that's why I put it, Doc. So he like looks at me, and he takes a couple of steps towards the door, and he kind of coyly looks back, and he's like, am I going to have to call security? And just as calmly as I could say it, I just put my hands on my stomach. I said, you can, but they won't make it here. And the look on his face was priceless. He went from irritated to fear.
Yeah, just
like
terrified.
that.
Yeah.
And of course, I start laughing, right? Because this is, from a brain injured perspective, this is really funny.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? You think that's funny? Which made it more funny,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I'm like, right? And for whatever reason, they didn't want me to come back to the doctor's office. Blew my mind because I was like, look, man, you said hobby.
Yeah.
It's not like I did it for a living.
Right.
I wasn't
Yeah.
paid for it.
Oh, yeah.
It's a side gig.
Absolutely. It's a volunteer. It's my ministry.
Yeah. This is what we do to help our society.
That's right. Yeah.
And he was not happy, and for whatever reason, he didn't want to see me again, and I accepted that answer.
Yeah.
And but it's funny, like when you're going through something and the things that you think are funny, and they just don't have a sense of humor, right? And I've told that story to other people, and they're like, I see why you think that's funny.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I accept that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like, I
think it's hilarious.
So, well, thank you. I thought it was pretty funny too.
Yeah.
So, did you have anything else for us?
With Third Monkey Fitness, what we're doing now, we laugh.
Hold on. First of all, it's super funny how you got the name.
Sorry, I should cover that.
Yeah.
So we have when I went in the hospital, my buddy said, he said, you got to fight like you're the third monkey on the ramp to Noah's Ark and brother, it's starting to rain. And I didn't know that was a meme from Facebook or anything like that. Yeah. So I was like, that's awesome. So the whole time I was in the hospital, I kept reminding myself, I'm the third monkey. And so we were just joking around, and I yelled it when I was in the wheelchair leaving the hospital. So that turned into our theme of our business is Third Monkey Strong, Third Monkey Fitness.
Right, so you're beating on the side of Noah. That's how Noah's Ark. That's how hard you're fighting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm not supposed to be on the Ark, but somehow I made it. No.
You're holding on for dear life to a barnacle. Huh?
Yeah.
All right, with that, we are going to take a break. You can go to spiritualwarfareunit.com, like, subscribe, and share, and we will be right back.
I was an addict for 6 years. I was deeply into heroin and addiction. 2014, a lot of events happened for me. I had lost my sister. My dad was just diagnosed with cancer. I was just kind of in this headspace of being in a mess as it was, and then I was introduced to heroin. I kept it pretty well hidden There in the beginning, a lot of people didn't know that I was using just because I went about my everyday life the same way anybody else would. But what they didn't know behind the scenes is I was using 10 times a day. I'm living out of what I consider a trap house at this point. There's no windows, there's no doors, there's no place to stay warm. I had no other way of making money. I was doing things that weren't okay to me. I started prostituting. I was stealing from my loved ones. I was taking my dad's cancer prescriptions, and I would take them and I would sell them. I couldn't even contact my daughter in December of that year to tell her Merry Christmas or send her gifts. And it just got to a point where I knew, like, I'm either going to get clean or I might as well start planning my own funeral. So for me, it wasn't even just that I needed to stop. My life over the course of 6 years fell apart.
So I met Sarah in 2019. We had a program I was working with law enforcement officers, and I got the call that they had somebody, so there I went to meet Sarah.
Here's just this happy-go-lucky guy just, oh my God, here's treatment. Here's what you can do. You can change your life around. I'm just kind of sitting there like, oh, okay, what did I get myself into? Like, maybe sitting in a cell by myself might have been a better idea, because at least I don't have to listen to all this.
Whenever I see somebody who's willing to go to treatment to try and help with their issue, it's something that I don't make that judgment. I always just try and provide the hope, the encouragement, and the motivation to go to treatment, and then hope that it works for them, hope they engage, hope that it's the point of life that they're in, that they're ready to make that change.
It was a huge wake-up call for me. When I'm watching all these people that I used to hang out with, including my husband, get clean before I did, and just watching their lives change so drastically and them becoming so much happier, and I just sat there in this endless abyss of a mess that I caused myself, but I didn't know how to get out of it. I didn't know how to stay clean. I didn't know how to live my life without substances because I had done it for so long.
With UCAN and our relationships we can actually get people into multiple treatment facilities. So depending on age, gender, the drug of choice, things of that nature, there's certain facilities that maybe have a little bit more of a success rate with certain populations. So we kind of talk through that and then try and place them where we feel is an optimal place to succeed.
My husband and I finally got a place together, and life has pretty much been good ever since, but like the key role of it for me was staying in contact with people.
We can't go in and drive in and grab somebody and just pull them out like they're drowning. It's a decision they have to make, and it's a commitment they have to make, and then they have to be diligent, determined, dedicated to find sobriety.
So my husband has 2 years clean, and I have 22 months clean. I will have 2 years clean on December 21st of this year. Just last month in October, we went back to court. Everything's officially terminated. She's back home with us for good.
Yeah, so UCAN is that conduit. A lot of times people don't know when to or how to or where to go to start looking for services. So we try and promote UCAN as being the starting point for people to begin the road to navigating recovery.
It is more than possible to change your life around.
So this program that we have allows law enforcement that if they have somebody that they feel could use the opportunity to try and get treatment instead of incarceration, that they would reach out and we could handle it for them.
Recovery is possible, and there is hope.
Welcome back to the Warriors Way in association with UCAN. This is Isaac from Spiritual Warfare Unit, and AJ was just getting ready to tell us about the third monkey that was beaten on the side of Noah's Ark and how that became your stick, your stuff. So
Absolutely.
finish that story for us. So that was a meme.
So that was a meme, and my buddy who we've become very close. He was in the same business I am, and it was just a meme, and it rang true.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, and then when you look at it, you start doing research on monkeys. Well, they're an unclean animal.
Yep.
It's like, well, I'm an unclean animal too.
Right.
You know, I'm saved by grace. You know, and so was the first, second, and third monkey.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
they're allowed to be on the ark.
Yeah.
So they were saved by grace, and so it's just like I recognize I connected with that meme really, really well, and so yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing that turned into a divine providence thing, I guess, and so we have some Bible verses that we always stick with that got us through our hard times and got us through our whole ordeal there.
Yep. So this is how AJ and I connected. So after we talked about the story, I was like, hey, when you get better, we should talk.
Yeah.
And so Spiritual Warfare Unit has the Biblical Life Application class, right? About how to use the Bible in regular circumstances and how to identify good and bad people. And it was like, hey, we should do a mix because I want to help people physically, and then you're helping them spiritually. And I'm like, I was like, man, that's actually a pretty good idea, right? So we started collaborating on this, and the idea is, since it was your idea, you get to tell them.
Well, I mean, it's my wife is studying to be a certified yoga instructor, and I'm going to be as well. But it's just we have yoga workouts for families. That's the beautiful thing about like I taught the class. I didn't teach the class last night. I hosted the class last night because my wife couldn't be there.
And where do you host it?
At Journey Ministries in Davison at our office.
All right.
7:15 on Mondays, 7:15 on Wednesdays, and I hosted it, so I showed DDP's video. And we did a workout to it, and I just kind of showed the moves.
Yep.
But the cool thing was, I'm sitting there going, we had 15 people there last night.
Yep.
And 12 of them were family members. So they were mother, daughters, dad, daughters, husband,
spending
wives.
time together.
So they're spending time together doing yoga.
Okay.
And they're all different. I mean, there's guys there, there's ladies there, there's all different types of people there. And, you know, guys are telling me after one workout, they've never been able to sit Indian style with their kids on the floor in 25 years, and in one workout they can do that now.
Yeah, and also improves the sex life, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So,
so listen, like when I'm going to tell you something. When you first told me, you got to do that, I'm like, yeah. And then I had my therapist, my physical therapist, like, you got to stretch before you get out of bed, and I'm like, jeez. And I'm sitting there thinking, and then you were talking about yoga, and I was like,
Yeah.
You know, some of those poses, I'm like.
Oh yeah,
there's some life application in this that could be possible, right?
A little HPS,
a little downward dog, boys.
That's right. Yeah, I know that's what we did our move on YouTube the other day, or on Facebook on video, and the move is I'm in down dog, and my wife puts her hands in front of my hands and does a standing split on my back. And so then she goes, well, what do you call the dismount? Because the first time we did it, she landed on my head, and it looked like she was giving birth to me as she comes off. So I said, well, it's the catcher with a happy ending. And so that's kind of become our coin phrase, you know, to do the catcher with a happy ending. So it's
absolutely
we have a good time with that. But yeah, it's the fun thing is you come as family, you come as you are, you make it your own. And you fart during half of it. You know, we had one guy come from church. He goes, my wife told me I had to come to this. Right after she told me, she gave me a whole bowl of chili. This was bad. And that whole side of the room was just like, oh, you know, and so.
We have a countdown.
That's right, yeah. But the cool thing is, like, his wife has had 3 hip surgeries.
Okay.
3 hip replacements. Yeah. Well, so we can show them how to get stretching safely and how to work out safely with their limitations.
Right.
With their hip surgery.
And the thing is you want the people with limitations.
I want the people with limitations.
Right. You don't want the people that are like, oh, look at me. I can touch my knees to my back or whatever.
What I want is, I realize that God prepared us for this battle of COVID. But we were like, and I don't think we were doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
I think we were not resting in the Holy Spirit at that time as much as we should have been.
Yeah.
We weren't saying, yay, God, enough, you know? And the thing is we're in this battle together with him. And we are way stronger to lean into him, let him fight the battle when we're too tired than to keep trying to push through. And as humans, our ego gets in the way. We just want to push through.
Sure, like if we can remember that God doesn't need us to get it done.
Exactly.
Right, he chooses to let us be a part of it.
Yeah.
And like for me, I just, I can't imagine going into eternity going, yeah, thanks for the ticket, man.
Yeah.
Like, all right, cool, now what?
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
like, what did you do? Well,
Yeah.
I got the ticket, man.
Yeah.
I can't imagine sitting there going like, it's like having a friend that's a millionaire that gives you money, and then, what are you doing for him? Oh, nothing. I just left, and
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
you wouldn't do that. Well, I'd appreciate that person. Like this guy came down here and gave me purpose, a
Yeah.
reason to breathe.
Yeah.
That's what he gave us. He
Yep.
gave us a reason something to fight for, because he's worth fighting for.
Absolutely.
Right. And so because of that, it's like I wanted to get in there. And for me, it's communication,
Yeah.
like how to identify good and
Yep.
bad communication biblically,
Yeah.
and to add that to what you're doing. And
Yeah.
my favorite part about it is like you said, it's for the dude that can't touch his toes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's for the person that can't get there. It's not for the person that's perfect.
Yeah.
It's for the person that like I can't figure it out,
Yeah.
right? And like that's where our hearts met. 'Cause
Yeah.
a lot of times you'll go into a church atmosphere and you're like, man, I can't be like these people. And I'm like, Jack, I'm not that cat. I'm a Jesus super freak.
Yeah.
Right. And I love watching him succeed. But at the same time, that requires me to look at me and say, what do I got to change? And so doing that from a physical and spiritual standpoint, like with our stories, makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And now you guys can see why I wanted this dude on here.
Yeah.
So you also, now your original business is called Comfort Keepers, right?
Yes. Yep.
And that business is taking care of elderly people.
We
Is
take
that
care
what
of
you're doing?
seniors and people recovering from surgery, adults recovering from surgery, and they need little extra help in their homes. So we bring the care to them.
That's
We've been
right.
doing this for 21 years.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and you're always looking for people, right?
Oh, yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so like if you're looking for a decent job that is in helping people, going to Comfort Keepers. You guys got a website or something?
Comfortkeepers.com.
Very
And
easy.
just put in the zip code and it'll pop up to our office. Or you can go on Facebook and just look up Comfort Keepers Genesee County. But the thing is, we're looking for people that want to do this job for a purpose, not
Yep.
for a paycheck.
Yeah.
And so if you're that's the only way you're going to do it. Cause I mean, to be completely honest, you don't know what you're walking into
Yep.
when you walk into a senior's home.
Yeah.
And so you can go to Hobby Lobby or any place else and make the same money or better,
Mm-hmm.
but you better be called like a teacher or a nurse or anything like that.
Like you want to
do
help
what
these
we
people.
do for the pay that it is. So
Yeah.
that's the thing is, I just want people that have a heart for it.
Yep.
And that's their ministry with very flexible hours, and we just love people.
Right, and that's why, like a spiritual warfare unit, you go to spiritualwarfareunit.com. You hit on the right side screen. It's got those 3 dots. You hit that, it says struggling. You go down there, and
Yep.
we got drug rehabilitation.
Yep.
We got places that give out food. We got places that give out clothes. We got baby formula, because we understand that people are struggling. It costs you nothing.
Yeah.
It costs you nothing because sometimes you just need help. And our entire focus on this whole thing is to help people for free. And then on top of it, be able to help those people that are helping those people for free identify what they're doing so they can get their word out, because they're you're so busy doing the work.
Yeah.
Like you don't have time to market this stuff, right? And so this is something I love. As you can tell, I love doing this. And
Yeah.
we could sit here and talk about THC stories for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But like,
Well, and that's the thing for me is I've come to where I help people with COVID and I help their families work through the system.
Mm-hmm. right. And now
work
you've
through the
had
problems.
a couple of those, right?
I've had a couple of those.
Give me one of those, because one of them was pretty awesome success.
Yeah,
story.
one was a chiropractor at our church. He, I went to his house and I said, "You are not going to make it to your antibody injection tomorrow morning." And he, unbeknownst to all of us, he was way out of it. And so he was like, "I didn't remember you coming over," but he was kind of telling us like,
Yeah, yeah.
"Oh no, I'm going to be fine." And I'm like, "There's no way." And so I tried to help, and we were talking with his wife. And the thing is with this whole thing is nurses are not public relations directors.
Right.
And they're in war right now, especially in those COVID units.
Right.
So he ended up going to the hospital, went on a ventilator within 15 minutes or 20 minutes of getting to the hospital. I mean, he was really bad, really fast. And so I said, so his wife, I'm trying to help her. And this is where I see it is it's the practical application. It's the peace that God gives us as my job. is what my ministry is. And so my wife is focused on the fitness side of it, which is awesome. And I love that. And I'm focused more on the consultative side of it. So because if you call the hospital and you go, how's Bob doing? And they're like, he's better or worse. That's all they're going to say.
Right.
But if you can call the hospital and say, okay, the practical guide of getting information out of these nurses. What does his blood clots look like? What is this? What does it ask like 4 or 5 questions?
You know the right questions.
Then if you know the right questions, you can at least get a barometer of what direction he's heading in that day.
Gotcha.
And I always say, and send them a bunch of muffins and send them nachos and send them all kinds of stuff at the COVID unit or wherever they're at, because guess what? If you're the annoying wife or husband that's going to call every day and they're eating your muffins or your donuts, you're a lot less annoying, And so it's like, but that's what you got to get to. You got to make them your ally,
right?
They want to advocate for you. And I'll tell you, that's what my family did for me.
Yeah. So you started to become the ally for these other people.
Yes.
And because of your experience, you know the right questions to ask, and you know like what you just said to do. That's what you do. And because of your experience with COVID and it being so bad, and so you were on Channel 12, right?
Yep.
That whole story was on Channel 12, and so
about a minute and a half. Yeah.
yeah, right. Do you have a link to that on your?
I don't. I should.
should.
I should find. I gotta find the story. It's on Vimeo or something like that.
Yeah, because like I said, man, like from a person who's gone through a death experience to a person who's gone through a death experience, like if someone's struggling with COVID, can they go to that Facebook page or whatever and send you a message and be like, hey, my family's struggling. Could you help out?
Yeah, I mean, you go to Journey Ministries, ask them. Go to the Facebook page. Go to Third Monkey Fitness Facebook page. Go to my personal Facebook page. Just Adam Jones. Search me on Facebook and. Yeah.
All right. So if you got family members struggling like that, all the people that we bring on here are warriors. They are here to help in a certain way, and they typically do this stuff for free most of the time. Have you come out with any third Monkey swag yet?
We have a Third Monkey Fitness shirt, and I have some Third Monkey Strong stickers. But I'm going to do some other swag that we I think for guys we don't necessarily want like a certain stuff. I made a leather like journal, and I had a leather patch made of Third Monkey Strong with the Bible verses on it. Yeah. So I'm doing something with that to like sell it, and the proceeds go to help other COVID cases, things like that, and then guys can carry it with them and remember. If you're going to fight like the Third Monkey.
Yeah, that's right.
My brother started.
Yeah, we're doing, we made challenge coins. Yeah. This is called our assassin coin. Hence the assassin story today. It's an all black one.
That's cool.
And it has our SWU, Spiritual Warfare Unit. Yeah. The 3 things that we value is honor, truth, and wisdom. Yeah. And so whoever is the 100th subscriber on our YouTube, we are going to send this to them for free.
Awesome.
And they'll be able to check that out. We're coming out with some more hats and T-shirts and sweatshirts here in the next, say, 90 days or so. So as you were putting that together, I am absolutely stoked to work with you, AJ. One, I like you as a human being, but 2, being able to relate to you from that. We've gone through this really horrible experience together. That's almost like being in the military. And that's why this is the Spiritual Warfare Unit, because I'm trying to collect people who have been through that battle and taken that negative and they've turned it into a positive. Because a lot of times people go through a negative experience and become a victim of that experience and they can't succeed. But you can be a survivor. You can stand up and be a spiritual warrior when you're going through a situation, and you can come out successful, and that's why we have the Spiritual Warfare Unit. If you haven't checked it out, please go to our spiritualwarfareunit.com YouTube page, Facebook, like and subscribe. Like I said, be the 100th subscriber on our YouTube, and this little baby will be yours. Thank you for popping in, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
There it is.
All right.